Hi, we are going to be working on solving equations today. So, our end goal by the end of the day is to meet the learning target. I can solve two-step equations with one variable. But before we get into that, we are going to take a little trip back in memory lane and talk about solving single-step equations from sixth grade. So, this particular learning target we talked about then was I can solve one-step equations. Now, when we have an inverse operation means I want you to type here and you're going to type opposite. Inverse operation just means the opposite. So if we're talking about adding, the opposite is subtracting. If we're talking about multiplying, the opposite is dividing. And we look at this equation here, 6x is equal to 24. Now, equal, often you think about equal means an answer. Equal doesn't always mean an answer. What equal means is that the 6x is the same as or is equivalent to 24. So I like to think about a scale. If I look at the scale with the blue bottom, it is an equal scale. It is level. It means that this side is the same as the other side, okay? But when we look at the black scale, the black has one side that weighs less than the other. It is not equal weight. So when we talk about an equal sign, we need it to be equal. And that's why the inverse operation or opposite operation works. So we're going to work through this equation. And if you know your multiplication facts, you know what the answer is. 6 times what equals 24? Well, we can figure that out that it's 4. But let's talk about how that works with our inverse operation. So, like I said before, right between that 6 and the x is a little dot that means multiplication. So, what is the inverse or the opposite operation of multiplication? Well, that's division. I want to divide this side, or actually, I want to divide both sides by 6. That's because we're trying to keep our scale balanced. We are going to do the same thing to both sides so one side doesn't become higher than the other. If I divide 6 by 6, I'm going to use my calculator just to make sure I get all the math right. 6 divided by 6 is equal to 1. That's why over here I'm going to write down just an x. That is an understood that there is a 1 in front of that x. Okay? And then 24 divided by 6 will equal, we know our multiplication facts, 4. So I want you to type the answer 4 right here. And this is how I know that you're doing your notes. If you want to type more information into the slides, you're more than welcome to. If you want to write it into your journal, that's fine as well. I just want you to watch the entire video. And when you're done, hit the blue submit button so that I know that you've seen the video. Okay, let's move on to another review. 3x is equal to 45. Now remember, we're going to keep that scale balance. So the 3 next to the x, what does that mean? It means we're multiplying. Got a little multiplication dot hidden inside there. So I must do the opposite of multiplication, and the opposite of multiplication is division. I'm going to divide this side by the number in front of the x, which is 3, and I'm going to keep my scale balanced. So I'm going to divide this side by 3. And see, on this one, we don't actually know our multiplication facts, so we're going to have to do a little investigation. 3 divided by 3 is 1, which leaves just my x in front. And let's use my calculator. 45 divided by 3 is equal to 15. Okay, you're going to type in the number 15 down there and write it in your notes. Okay, let's look at the next one that we have. This one's slightly different. We have x plus 12 is equal to 25. Now remember, we are using the inverse operation or the opposite. And what is the opposite to addition? Well, the opposite to addition is subtraction. And what I'm doing when I'm using the inverse operation is that I am isolating the variable. I want that x to be all by itself on whichever side of the equation equal sign that it is. So I know that x plus 12 is equal to 25. And I'm going to subtract that 12. 12 minus 12 is 0, and I'm left with x. And I'm going to keep that scale balanced, so I need to subtract 12 on the other side. 25 minus 12 is equal to 13. So my answer, 13, should go there. I think we're starting to get the hang of this, aren't we? Now, does it matter which side of the balance we're on? No, it doesn't. As long as we keep it equal, we're going to be fine. I'm going to draw my balance scale and make sure that I have it balanced on both sides. Now I've got x minus 4 is the same or equivalent to 18. Again, if we know our facts, we can figure that out. But when the problems get harder, you're not necessarily going to be able to figure them out in your head. So we have to write it down and do the work. X minus 4, and the opposite of subtraction is addition. We want to add our 4 over here, so those will cancel out. Add our 4 over there. We bring our x down, and 18 plus 4 is equal to 22. So our answer 22 goes there. So now that we are finished reviewing from 6th grade and talking about our basics, we're going to start and review 7th grade material. We know things went a little crazy last year, so we want to make sure you have a firm grasp of these steps before we move on to something new. So I'm going to show you 2 different methods. The first one is the inverse operations method, and it will work, but I want to show you another method too and let you choose which one works best for you. So we're going to use this equation, 2x plus 7 is equal to 11. Now, this time, I don't just have my coefficient in front of my x. I also have something that's called a constant. And my constant is just this number here that is something that is not associated with your variable. And I have a constant on this side. And before I can divide, I'm going to have to combine the like terms. So I have one variable, and I have 2 constants, my positive 7 and my 11. And I'm going to move my 7 on the balance to the other side of the equal sign. And I do this by using the inverse operation. What's the opposite of addition? It's subtraction. So I'm going to subtract 7 on both sides, and I bring my 2x down. And that 2x stays on that side of the scale. Positive 7 and negative 7 equals 0. And then I have 11 minus 7. Now 11 minus 7 is 4, and I'm left with 2 equivalent equations. 2x, 2 times x is equal to, or the same as, the number 4. So now that this step here is our combining like terms, and we also added and subtracted at the same time. We have to do the adding and subtracting before we can do the multiplying and dividing. Now I get to multiply and divide. What am I going to multiply by? Well, you multiply or divide by the number associated with the variable, which means I'm going to divide both sides by 2. The 2 divided by 2 equals 1, and I'm left with a single x, and 4 divided by 2 is 2. So your answer for this equation is 2. Now, sometimes that can be complicated, and it can get a little tricky, and it can get a little messy. So I'm going to show you how you can organize your thoughts in a little bit simpler method. And from here on out, I'm probably going to show you both methods, although, to be honest, I like the box method. Now, the steps look like it's a lot more, but they just make better sense to me, and I hope it makes better sense to you. So the first thing I'm going to look at is I am going to create 2 boxes. And remember, our boxes, our equal signs, means that whatever is on the left is the same as whatever is on the right. I'm going to make my 2 boxes. And when I make a box, I have an upstairs and I have a downstairs. And I didn't realize the calculator was blocking the view. Okay. So the first thing, I'm going to identify how many x terms we have. Well, we have 3 x terms. And that needs to go, that's how many boxes I need. And I'm going to put that over there. Okay. It's got a cross. Next, I want to look and see how many constants. Well, in the constants, I have here and I have here. The constants go in the top right box. So there's 2 of them. I'm going to put 2 on the top. And then I'm going to sort them. The x's go to the left, the constants go to the right. I'm going to put my 15 and my 9. But this 15 here See how it crossed that equal sign? Because it crossed the equal sign, I need to change the sign. So on our x, I need to change the sign. We cross the equal sign. And then I'm going to combine those terms. Well, on the left, it's pretty simple because I only have one term. I have negative 3. But on the right, I have a negative 15 plus 9. And that gives me a negative 6. Now, I have these two sides to my equal sign. The next thing, that was adding the tops where the sum goes in the bottom. The last thing I do is I divide by the coefficient. And Ms. Harrell, what's the coefficient? Well, the coefficient is this number up here. So I'm going to divide both sides by negative 3. Negative 3 and negative 3 equals 1. And then I have a negative 6 divided by a negative 3. And that equals 2. So x equals 2. Now again, that looks like a lot of words, but the steps are really simple. You create 2 boxes on either side of the equal sign. On the left side, all your x's, or numbers with your x's. On the right side, all your numbers. Then you add them up and simplify them, and you divide by the number in front of the x. And there you go. That's all there is to it. So I'm going to show you both methods in this one, and you're going to choose which one you like to use. Okay? Now, this x over the 4 looks a little different, but remember that number x over 4, that's an equation. So that's got to be division because I don't see an addition sign. I don't see a subtraction sign. And that little line right there, that line means to divide. Okay? So we're going to start. I'm going to do the inverse on the left, and I'm going to use the box on the right. So when I have my inverse, I have x over 4 minus 5 is equal to 9. X over 4 minus 5 is equal to 9. So the first step I need to do is I've got to get rid of, I'm getting ahead of myself. I need to just sort my terms. Here is an x number with a variable. Here's a constant, and here's a constant. I need to move all my constants to the right. So I'm going to start by doing the opposite, performing the inverse operation. The inverse of negative 5 is a positive 5. And I'm left with x divided by 4. And then I have to add 5. And 9 plus 5, I haven't had enough sleep. So that number is 14. So I have x divided by 4 is equal to 14. The very next thing I have to do is I have to focus on my variable. If I am dividing, the opposite of division is to multiply. So I'm going to multiply both sides of my balanced equation by 4. 4 times 1/4 is equal to 0. I bring my x down. And then I have 14 times 4. Well, 14 times 4 is equal to 56. So now I have the number 56. I can check my work by plugging in this 56 back up here. And I go 56. Since my answer is already 56, I can go divided by 4 minus 5, and it should be equivalent to 9. Oh, and it is. It's equivalent to 9. So my left side is equivalent, and I want that 56 to go there. So Ms. Harrell, what does this mean about the box method? Show me that again. Well, I am so glad you asked. Take my box method, and I've got a top box and a bottom box. And remember, the two boxes are equivalent. So I'm going to take and look for all my numbers with x's. And I have x divided by 4, but I have 2 constants. And I need to put both of those here. I have a negative 5 and a positive 9. But that 5, I had to cross the equal sign. So instead of a negative 5, I actually have a positive 5. Next, I combine those two terms. There's nothing to combine with my variable, but I have a positive 5 and a positive 9. 9 plus 1 is 10, and 10 plus 4 is 14, so I have 14 on this side. Now, because I'm dividing by that x, the next thing I need to do is to multiply times 4. So I'm going to multiply times 4 on both sides, and I'm going to end up with x is equal to, because dividing by 4 and multiplying by 4 are the same, or they're inverse operations. So 14 times 4 is equal to 56. So no matter what method you choose, your answer is going to be the same. We can do inverse operations or we can use the box method. If you have any questions, just reach out to me. Please email me and talk to me and let me know what you're going with. I'm going to give you chances to practice both the inverse method and the box method. I think you'll come to see and agree with me that you like the box method. I like the box method. To me, it just makes more sense. Have a great day.